Ben Schulte, environmental engineer for the city of Fitchburg. I've been with the city about 10 months. I had taken over for Claudia, who maybe some of you have met if you had been to any meetings related to this project. She kind of got it off the ground and started. With that, we'll just go over the agenda quick today. First of all, I'm not sure if everyone here is familiar with the impetus for this project, but we'll briefly cover that if everyone's familiar with it. And then we'll just go over the scope, resident impacts, schedule, and then at the end we can take care of any questions that you all may have. So the background information, as many of you know and have seen, this area of Cheryl Drive gets flooded basically when you get anything more than a minor rain event. There'll be some heavy flows going through that roadway. You got another slide here. Here's some pictures that kind of illustrate the point. So this is from what they would call a 25-year rain event, and you can clearly see the water is up and over the curb. So, unfortunately, we can't design everything for like a 1,000-year storm event. It's cost prohibitive. But, we really, in kind of the standard in pretty much most communities I'm familiar with, is you want to keep, you don't want any water going out of the road in anything less than a 100-year event. So this right now would be far short of kind of meeting the standard that we'd like to see. So this project came in 2 phases. Phase 1 was completed in the fall of last year. This was essentially just to scrape out the swales. There's a bunch of built-up sediment that had accumulated over time to give the water a little bit more or to give the channel a little bit more capacity to drain the water. And I can just backtrack here quick so you can see what swales I'm talking about. It's this dotted yellow line here, and then this dashed line here. That's what was cleaned out last fall. So we've got phase 2 coming up this spring. It's going to be storm sewer and inlet installation in general. So what we'll be doing is installing some bigger diameter, higher capacity storm sewer, including a pretty large 7-foot wide by 3-foot tall box culvert. So this is what we had completed a feasibility study a year ago, and they kind of determined, all right, how big of pipes do you need to actually adequately convey the water? So that's what we figured. It would need to be a 7x3 box culvert. Certainly can carry a lot more water than what's out there today. And then there'll be installation of additional inlets just to get the water off the road faster. Some spot removal of curb and gutter. That's just kind of, just almost incidental to the work in that there's not really a reason that we're doing it other than it gets damaged when they install the storm pipe, so it has to get replaced. And then there'll be some repaving, of course, in the work zone after they've installed the pipe and got everything backfilled. And that's going to include some very minor grading tweaks, which, and we'll get into this more later, is basically just, it's supposed to provide a better overflow route for the extreme events so the water can get into the park rather than up on people's property. So that is one little minor tweak we'll be throwing in there as well. So here's just kind of a screenshot of the Charleston and Cheryl Drive intersection. This is one of the areas where the work will be taking place. So this is basically what it looked like in 2020. You can see where the pavement looks pretty rough, and then there's a pretty distinct line where the pavement looks much newer. That rough area, more or less, will be replaced through this project as they're installing the storm sewer pipe. And then I'll just get up quick. So what I was talking about before with the overflow path, what we're going to do is... Yeah. No worries. All right. Hopefully this is better. Thumbs up, thumbs down. Technology. All right, I think we're good. So this, basically right now, there's this path here. There's not a path to the other side, but the path is, it's kind of higher up, so it prevents water from spilling over. And what ends up happening is it kind of backs up into this property. And so we're going to remove the path. We cannot put the path back in place because we would have to lower it too much to the point where it would be interfering with the box culvert. So, that's kind of one thing that isn't ideal, but it was necessary to provide a safe overflow route. And with there not being a sidewalk on the other side of the detectable warning field and curb ramp there, we felt that it was appropriate for the benefit in those heavier events. All right, we'll go to the next slide here. So this is the same area we just saw, but now this is the plan sheet. And I'll get back up again. Yeah, a lot going on here, a lot of lines and colors. This kind of darker gray area is the area that the pavement will be replaced. So you can see it's just kind of past Charleston and just a little bit up Charleston. This is that large 7x3 box culvert I was talking about. So right now, it's covering it up, but there is a pipe through here. It's much smaller, so that'll be replaced. We've got such a big pipe, we have to have a custom, basically manhole structure, so we can have these other pipes dump into there. And then we've got some additional inlets, a couple inlets on Charleston, a couple down there. And that's, by and large, the project for this area. And we can go to the next area quick.
Real quick question about this area.
Yes.
For since we moved in probably 7-8 years ago, we were always told that when this project happened, they would they'd finish the road to the end of what's the Richardson, thanks. But it looks like now it's really not going to get finished. Is there a reason why you guys aren't going to just finish the road off? You saw the difference between the rest of Cheryl to the east and this road, and the rest of the road all the way down to Richardson looks just as bad. It's never been paved in the entire time we've lived there. So I'm just curious as to why you're not going to finish off the road.
Well, the reason that we're not doing it as part of this project is just money. So this is ARPA funded, and it has to be a stormwater resiliency project in order for us to use the ARPA dollars. So this paving, it's kind of, like I said, incidental. It just has to be done because they're going to be tearing it all up. But if we were just going up and paving further up, we wouldn't be able to use those ARPA dollars. But what I will have to check in with Ross Kaler. He's our new senior project engineer, so he's the one that's putting together the paving plans and resurfacing plans. So I'd have to talk with him and see when that section of roadway is on the schedule. I know there is a 5-year paving plan that they update every year. It's not necessarily set in stone, so if there's issues that develop, things can be changed. But I would have to check in with Ross before I, said something that wasn't completely accurate there.
Yeah, it would be good to know because, we were told about that plan when we moved in. Like I said, that was a question we had because this will actually take care of some of the issues that we had. There was there's an actual hole in the pavement by where the storm sewer is in front of our house. I actually rolled my ankle on it before, but the rest of the road, you know, we were told it was part of that plan and it's never happened. And I know you guys we've had a lot of changes in terms of the staffing, and it just seems like it never gets done. So, you know I keep bringing it up, but it's because they don't ever get a firm answer on when it's actually going to be happening. So,
Yeah, I'll definitely check in with Ross, see what his plan is, if he's got that on the schedule already. I'm just not super plugged into the resurfacing program.
it'd be good to know too, you know, like what is the expectation in terms of that? Because, you know, like I said, we've been here 8 years. It'll be 8 years in May, and it hasn't been touched in 8 years. So I don't know if it's every 10 years, every 20 years, if there is no schedule with regards to that. But and I'm happy to reach out to him too. It's just I feel like I've reached out to 10 people over the last 8 years, and
and that has been, I think, difficult. Just like you mentioned with the turnover and things probably getting a little lost in the shuffle, and obviously tough on residents with not having consistent communication with kind of a revolving door of people for a period of time. But we'll check in with Ross and we'll see what he can tell us and maybe get the ball moving on that one.
Okay, thank you.
All right. So this is the other section of the project where they'll be installing storm sewer. You can see this is just to the west of Jacqueline Drive. And again, the next slide will show the plans, so you can see kind of the where the storm sewer is going in. If you see right here, that's where the storm sewer currently dumps in, and then everything to the north is the swale that was just dredged out. So in general, it's kind of just this area where they're putting in the additional inlets and storm sewer, and we'll see that on the next slide. So you can see it's a fairly small section of road that will actually be getting repaved, but there are 3 storm sewer pipes that are going to be dumping into there rather than I think the one that is right now. So that was another problem area that had kind of experienced flooding, not necessarily to the extent that the other area had, but nonetheless, we did find these existing storm sewer pipes to be very undersized and not sufficient for today's design standards. Okay, so schedule, this is what we've all been waiting for. May 8th, so that is the date that I got from Speedway Sand and Gravel. They're the contractor. They're going to be out there first just putting in erosion control, traffic control. That'll take a day or two. And then they're going to move on to the Cheryl and Charleston intersection, that one I showed first. They're saying about 10 days to install the storm sewer box culvert and inlets, and then another 2 to 3 days to remove and replace the curb. So if you recall that I mentioned there's that very large manhole structure. It's so big that they actually have to make it in place. So they're going to form it and then pour concrete. So that'll take 3 to 5 days before it can be driven over. Which is why we've got this traffic control plan that we'll be jumping into in a little bit. But overall, there's no other utilities being removed and replaced, so it should be fairly quick. After that, they'll move on to the near the Jacqueline intersection that we saw. They don't have the big box culvert to deal with, so they'll get that in much faster. They're saying 5 days. And then again, another 1 to 2 days to remove and replace the curb. And I guess I will mention, so there is a possibility that water main will have to be just lowered. There's a rule that the DNR has that says storm sewer has to be at least 18 inches above water main, and that's just about protecting the water main. So, you know, we of course have a pretty good idea where the water main is, but, you know, these old plans that we're looking at, if things are off by a couple inches, then that could, you know, force the contractor to actually have to move a portion of the water main a little bit deeper to get that separation. And if that's the case, it doesn't seem like it based on what we know of where the water main is. But if it is the case, that would add, you know, a couple days to the schedule there.
And that's only down by the Jacqueline intersection? That doesn't, there isn't one up by Cheryl?
Correct. There is the water main there. You know, we feel that it's just a little bit deeper. So we don't think we're going to have that issue.
Okay.
And again, I don't think we will on the Jacqueline intersection. It was so close that, you know, just wanted to mention that if they dig it up and they find that, you know, the water main's a little bit higher or whatever. So once they've got all the storm sewer in, they'll just leave it graveled because they want to pave it all at once. They don't want to pave the one area and then pave the other. So they'll do the paving at the very end. That'll take about another 2 days. And, you know, if the weather cooperates and they don't have to take too many rain days, you know, that they should be able to get completed by, you know, mid-June. It looks like I didn't finish the last sentence there. Contract time for substantial completion it's June 30th. So that's basically, you know, per the contract, it's got to be paved by June 30th. I think it'll, like I said, be closer to mid-June, you know, as long as the weather isn't a mess. All right, so resident impacts. Most of the people that received the letter about this meeting won't be, you know, directly impacted just due to the fact that, you know, as far as the work zone, you know, truck traffic, you know, not being able to access your driveways, that kind of a thing. The impact for residents receiving the letter will be really the temporary closure of Cheryl Drive for those, you know, 15, 20 days that they're installing the pipe and then prepping to pave. So all residents will have access in and out of their driveways. That is a part of the contract. You know, it kind of goes along with every parcel has to have emergency medical service access or fire access. The only time when there won't be direct access to the driveway, and Dana, I'm glad you're on, and I think we discussed
it was us.
Yes. So it's really only Dana's house because that's the only house that they're paving directly in front of. So just while they're paving, they, you know, but as soon as they're done paving and rolling it, you know, you can drive on it right away. So, you know, maybe a couple hours, but
yeah. But there won't be any impact. I was more concerned that doesn't bother me. It's not a big deal, but the only one that I was more concerned about is when they're putting in that gigantic box culvert, because it feels like it's like right directly in front of our driveway, and it looks like it might be a concern for periods of the days when that's going to happen. So I was just curious how that impact was going to be. Not that we have a concern. I mean, we're not concerned about it because we are 100% supportive of this project. Just want to be, it happens to be a time where I think we're going to be back home for a couple of weeks. And so just want to know what days we're going to have to be aware of that, just in terms of driving in and out and that kind of thing. Sure.
So they'll put it in. It goes in kind of piece by piece. They're 8-foot sections. They lift it in with, you know, either a very large excavator and put it in place, or a tiny little, you know, bucket crane, not bucket crane, like cherry picker or whatever you want to call it. So there will be, I guess, large equipment installing it, but it will be pretty stationary just because it's kind of picking it up, turning, and then dropping it in. With it being east of the driveway, I don't really anticipate any issues with that either. I think, maybe one thing I will mention is just while they're putting the storm sewer in, I'm sure they'll, and replacing some curb, they'll have to do probably a little bit of restoration. Well, they certainly will have to do a little bit of restoration, just kind of, on your property, just a couple of feet behind the curb line. So I guess that would be another impact to you, is just, they'll probably mess up a little bit of the grass there.
Yeah. Do you think that the tree's gonna get impacted? I mean, that was the other thing I was concerned about. Not that no offense, but if you take down the tree, it wouldn't be the worst case scenario because it's kind of ugly and driving. But I'm a little concerned that it's gonna take that tree out.
I had asked and I was told no.
Okay. Sounds good.
So a couple other things. There will be less truck traffic. So phase one, maybe if people lived on Jacqueline or Cheryl, you maybe noticed a lot of trucks driving around. So that was, they were hauling out so much material. That won't be the case this time. So there'll be a lot less just general construction traffic.
Is it going to be consistent to what was supposed to happen last time, which is going east out of Cheryl and not coming back through the neighborhood itself?
That is what is supposed to happen. Yep, it is. It's supposed to go. They're supposed to go east up to Fish Hatch, and we'll make sure that they do that, and we'll let our inspectors know to monitor for that.
Okay.
And then residents adjacent to the work zone, as just a trash collection thing. Again, Dana, this probably only applies to you, but you can place trash and recycling cart just outside as you normally would, and the crew will dump it out or to the pelletary truck, and they'll take care of that. They that's something that they're used to doing. Speedway Sand and Gravel does a lot of major road reconstruction projects in the area, and that's always one of the things is how are people getting their trash picked up. So they're experienced with that. So
you can always run it next door or across the street or something too. It's not a big deal. So
and they'll be very willing to work with you to kind of do whatever is easiest for you there. I guess we'll go on to this next. I think a lot of you saw this. I got some feedback about this. I guess it wasn't a very good map, but this is just, I guess, intended to highlight the work zones again. So this area with the big box culvert and this kind of smaller area, just generally with the amount of other potential detour routes you could take. It's just kind of avoid that area. The road will be closed. You could go around Richardson onto Lacey or some other route, and then if anyone lives in one of these houses, they shouldn't go on Cheryl either way. They should come out and up there. You don't want to go down Charleston. You keep going up Charleston, so you avoid that intersection there. So it's just kind of those. Whoops. Yeah, it's just basically that whole section in front of the park there will be a place to avoid for 15, 20 days. How are we doing on time here? Oh, very good. With that, does anyone have any questions? Yes. Oh, I can get it.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
My name is Don Julie, and I live on the corner of Cheryl Drive and Richardson. And from what you said, I don't think we're going to be affected during this period. But you also observed that there was flooding. I can't remember if it was 2016 or just exactly when. And we have experienced flooding that came up approximately to the sidewalk at that time. Not that we spend a lot of time worrying about it, but will whatever construction you're doing now make that less likely? Thank you.
Yeah, that's a very good question. Thanks for that. And I'll go back here and bring up one of the maps. And one of the reasons that this project is so important but also impactful is that you've got this huge watershed. You know, pretty much everything on this map ends up going down there. So by increasing the capacity of the very most furthest downstream pipe, you know, really that should benefit everyone in the full watershed. And then, you know, as these streets are reconstructed, they can extend storm sewer up, add inlets where there aren't. That was kind of a thing. You see a lot of older neighborhoods where they really don't have a lot of storm sewer or inlet capacity. They'll kind of just have it at the most downstream end of the subdivision. You know, that's kind of the case here. It's the case in, you know, other neighborhoods in Fitchburg. And one of the goals is, you know, once we increase the capacity at the furthest downstream side, it actually will make sense to install more storm sewer further upstream. See, right now, if we installed storm sewer on Jacqueline or up Tammy or any of those streets, it wouldn't really matter because it's you know, hitting that roadblock at the very downstream end. So this project will open up, I think, many other projects, you know, in the future as streets get reconstructed. They'll be able to put those improvements in. So I can't necessarily quantify exactly how much it will help in your situation and right in front of your property, but it will benefit the watershed as a whole. Yeah, this will be a good project. It's definitely needed and has been needed. So it'll be a good one to knock off the list, and hopefully it's fairly painless.
Is it helpful, and we're on Cheryl and Rose Allen, is it helpful if we just don't try to get in our garage during the day? We're on the corner of Cheryl and Rose Allen. Is it helpful if we just don't try to get in our driveway during the day? Because the last thing I want to do is slow them down from.
Oh no, you're totally fine.
Okay.
Yeah, you can park in your driveway, absolutely.
Okay.
Yep. And you're kind of right in the middle. And since they're not going to be really working on both sides at once, because we don't want to have like a bunch of traffic going, you know, in between the Rose Allen there. So, you know, you'll be good. Anything else? Comments, concerns? I'll mention I do have a sign-in sheet up there. If you'd like to just provide an email address to email updates to, you know, I can do that. And then I've just got a business card. If you want to, you know, feel free to just call me whenever if you got questions or concerns. Yeah, I think that's all I got as part of the presentation.
Hey Ben, I'm sorry, this is Brian Jacobs. Can I ask one more question?
Yes.
Are you going to do any restrictions on parking in the area, like specifically on Cheryl Drive? Or is that just, I mean, but, you know, with being in the area, you know, there's a lot of traffic or a lot of parking that happens adjacent, you know, on both sides of the road just for park access.
I mean, I guess it's not necessarily a part of this project. Yeah, you know, that's probably another question for Ross, being more of the streets guy, to see if that's been considered with the offices. I guess, is your thought that you would want to reduce or restrict it?
Well, my only concern would be, you know, with us having maybe some restricted access to our driveway, just like if there would be an issue with cars parking on the street, like coming up, like maybe some construction fence or some barricades, you know, those types of potential bottlenecks or restrictions for us. And I'm speaking selfishly about us.
Well, and quite honestly, you know, and I brought this up, I sent an email previously about, you know, the increased traffic in that area, you know, the Charleston, Cheryl Drive corner, now that there's so many more uses of that corner of the park. And especially now that this will be into May when the runs start and you know, there's lots of activities going on. I'm just hoping that there's some interaction with the Parks Department as to what impact this is going to have with all those events you know, with whatever events are going on in the park in that area.
Yeah.
And we've had problems in the past where people park in front of our driveway and park in front of our mailbox and, you know, are traipsing through our yard and just consistently because there's so much parking on the road anymore. And so I can just see that as being a little bit of a concern as this is underway.
Yes, and I think I maybe misunderstood at first, but during construction, absolutely, we don't want people parking there during the construction. But once you know, once construction is over, that's maybe something we could talk to Ross about to see, you know, if there were any plans to restrict parking there. I know there's like a ton of graduation parties in June at this park. I saw people applying for some permits from, so I know, you know, they're going to have to park on Cheryl or one of the streets kind of by the park there for those events. But yeah, the parking's a little bit out of my realm.
Yeah, it's just that like I said, the one thing that we've noticed the most of is the soccer tournaments. They have huge amounts of soccer going on in that corner now, which is, like I said, just increased the flow of traffic. I mean, it's probably been the last 3 years, it's just gotten, you know, more and more busy. In fact, you know, we've expressed concerns about kids running out in front of streets because you kind of have that blind curve right there and people don't see kids running across the street to their cars and stuff like that. It's been a bit of a concern just from a safety perspective already. And I can see that being an impact. And it may not be, there may not be soccer yet. You know, it may be, maybe you guys have all looked into all of this already. It was just something that we were thinking about.
Okay. No, that makes sense. And like I said, definitely during construction, we're not going to be, you know, having people park there. That's just not really safe.
Yep.
Oh, God. Hi, Hannah. Where are they going to park during construction? Like, are we going to direct them to park on Richardson or a different street? Because there is already soccer, and there are a lot of cars there now. So I understand that they're not going to be there during construction, but where will they park?
Well, they might have to hoof it a little bit, but they're soccer players, right? You know, and it's hopefully very temporary, 15, 20 days. And there's, you know, parking in McKee Farms Park has, you know, parking lots. And, you know, I don't know, I guess if people park on Charleston or not, you know, or, you know, people just have to figure it out a little bit, I guess.
So that sounds good in theory, and I don't disagree with you. It's just that what I've been explaining for the last 2 years is it really, that intersection already is a very big safety concern. Like I said, there've been lots of near misses in terms of people getting hit. I mean, we've seen it. And, I've brought it to the attention of the police. I think it's an area that you may want to consider just having some, police drive-bys directing, because what's happening is, we all know how people are. They wait till the last minute. They're rushing their kid to soccer. They're, I've got, like I said, they're running across the street to try and get there. And now they're having to come further. And from a safety perspective, I just think it would be good to have a few things in place to be dealing with that, so that it doesn't become something that's tragic.
Sure.
So a part of this project, though, Ben, this discussion's not part of this project, correct? During this project, Cheryl's going to be closed off. People have to find, and Dana's right, there's a ton of traffic and parking, but they can't park during the construction zone.
Yeah,
And so they have to park on Richardson and Walk or whatever. And future, once the construction's finished, is a whole nother topic.
yes.
Okay, thank you.
I guess I'll mention that I think the city is going to be doing, I think, kind of a traffic calming safety study. I'm not sure if this is one of the intersections that they were looking at for that, but that'd be something to make a note of for sure.
Yeah, I would really like I said, I've been bringing this to the attention of both parks as well as the police for, I think this is the 3rd year now, so.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I agree. I've seen cars flying down there. It's kind of a wide road, and I think it lends itself to, people maybe wanting to speed down there, and yeah, that's another one. I'll have to feed that question to Ross again, our transportation engineer, see what his thoughts are. And did you talk to Scott Endel in Parks?
Yeah, I've talked to him multiple times.
Okay.
I just don't, it doesn't seem to be, because no one's been hit, it doesn't seem to be enough of a concern, so. Not to be crass about it, but I mean, honestly, I've tried and I can't get anyone's attention. And, my point is that I don't think we do a great job as we continue to use the park, which I think is wonderful. I mean, we love seeing a lot of activity in the park, but we have to consider, we had a poor woman that was in a wheelchair. I thought she was going to run over. There is no handicap parking. She's got kids that are trying to play soccer. We're trying to let her park in our driveway because we were so concerned about her getting out of her vehicle in the middle of Cheryl Drive. It's just, we need to start thinking about, as we're increasing the usage, the impact on safety, on the neighbors, those kinds of things. And it just seems like it's lagging quite a bit. And so I can see this being just even a bigger issue. Oh, it's probably not going to be it's just going to get pushed out further into the neighborhood. Because the traffic has to go somewhere. The cars have to go somewhere.
Right.
And you're talking, there's events in the fall. That's soccer. There's hundreds of cars. It's just crazy how many people are in the park at that time. So, and like I said, as you come, and I know it's the tree between our house and our next door neighbors, but it is kind of a blind curve right there where, people can't see what's around that bend right there, and it gets a little scary.
Yeah. Well, I think that's something that, would make sense to be a part of a traffic calming or a traffic safety analysis, if that's, the city's going to move forward with that. I think, there's a little bit more interest in, well, I don't know if I want to say, I guess, every time there's a pedestrian death, which we had recently in the city, it kind of, unfortunately, that's how, things get more attention. It seems to take a tragedy like that. But, yeah, I would think, there'd be interest in trying to figure something out, or there's got to be something, that could be done. try to make that intersection safer. But yeah, I'll have to talk with Ross, and we do have a new director of public works now. Maybe he'd be more receptive. All right, it looks like there are no more questions.
Well, I just wanted to say thanks so much for spearheading and seeing this finally to fruition. We are hugely thankful and grateful for it. So whatever pain point it's going to cause us, we know it's going to be wonderful in the end. And so we just wanted to say thanks.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a very exciting project for the city, and you know, it's going to open up a lot of doors with making other improvements in the watershed. So it's glad to see it get done. All right, thank you, everyone. Enjoy your night.
Thank you,
Thanks so
Ben.
much, Ben. Take care.